In the present video titled Electrostatics Part 9, we'll try to develop a concept capacitance of a conductor, the useful concept in electrostatics. Experiments show that if we give a charge to a conductor, say charge Q, its potential rises to V. Larger the amount of charge given to the conductor, higher is the potential. So we have a straight line graph between Q and V. Therefore, Q is proportional to V, or Q is equal to a constant C multiplied by the potential V, where C equal to Q over V is a constant called capacitance of the conductor or electrical capacitance of the conductor. It is a scalar quantity, no direction can be assigned to this, and its SI unit is farad, that is coulomb per volt. Unit of charge is coulomb, unit of potential is volt, coulomb per volt, and is denoted by the symbol capital F. However, farad is a very large unit of capacitance, so we make use of some multiples or smaller units. Millifarad 10 to the power minus 3 farad, or microfarad 10 to the power minus 6 farad. Even nanofarad is used 10 to the power minus 9 farad, and picofarad, which is also written as microfarad, or 10 to the power minus 12 farad. The capacitance of a conductor depends on its shape and size, nature of the medium in which it is placed, and also on presence of other conductor placed in its neighborhood. If we keep another conductor close to a conductor, the capacitance changes, as we will see a little later. However, the capacitance is independent of nature of the material and the amount of charge which we give it, because larger charge implies larger potential and the ratio Q over V, which is capacitance, remains constant. The conductors of different shape, as stated here, will have different value of capacitance. To begin with a simple case, let's find out capacitance of a spherical conductor. If we consider a sphere of radius r and give it a charge q, the potential at point P, as studied earlier, will be V equal to Q over 4 pi epsilon naught r. From this equation, you get C is equal to Q over V equal to 4 pi epsilon naught r. So this is the expression for the capacitance of a spherical conductor. Remember, this expression C equal to 4 pi epsilon naught r is valid for hollow as well as solid spherical conductors. Now, we have stated that farad is a very large unit of capacitance. Here is an evidence to this fact. Let's assume that Earth is a sphere, a very large sphere we know, and the radius is 6,400 kilometer or 6.4 into 10 to the power 6 meter. If we calculate its capacitance by the expression derived 4 pi epsilon naught r, we will get 1 over 9 into 10 to the power 9, the value of this expression constant, into the radius 6.4 into 10 to the power 6, and calculation lead you to 711 microfarad, that is 0.000711 microfarad. So even Earth has a very small capacitance, very less as compared to 1 farad, indicating that farad is a very large unit of the capacitance. Now, let's analyze the relations which we have studied and interpret the same graphically. Every relation that you learn, it is advisable to translate into the form of graphs for thorough understanding of the relation and dependence of various quantities in the relation. For example, if we plot a graph between charge versus potential, we get a straight line. And the slope of this graph, that is Q by V, will give you the capacitance of the conductor. However, if we keep Q constant, then V will be inversely proportional to capacitance. The graph is shown here. V versus C graph is hyperbolic at constant charge. If the potential is kept constant, V constant, then Q will be proportional to C. So capacitance plotted along X and charge along Y, the graph is a straight line. And if you have the Q versus V graph for two capacitors, C1 and C2. C1 is capacitance of first capacitor and C2 that of the second. Then C1 will have a higher value of capacitance because of the larger slope. If it is V versus Q graph, V in this direction, then the result will be reversed. That is, in that case, C2 will have a higher value of capacitance. Similarly here, the capacitance of a spherical conductor plotted versus radius will give you a straight line graph. Continuing with concept of electrical capacitance, let us now see the principle of a capacitor. Capacitor basically is a combination of conductors used to store electric charge and electric energy. As stated earlier, the capacitance is influenced by presence of another conductor close to a conductor. To illustrate it further and to illustrate the principle of a capacitor, let's consider an isolated conductor 1 and give it a charge Q. The potential V at point P by definition is determined by bringing a unit positive charge from infinity, means very far off point, to point P. That work we can calculate and which will give us potential V. Now suppose close to this plate 1 we keep another plate 2 and earth it. This positive plate induces negative charge on the inner surface and positive charge on the outer surface. This positive charge being free flows to earth and the negative charge remains in position because it is bound by this positive charge. Therefore, if you bring charge, unit positive charge now again from infinity to this point P, this charge will be helped by the negative charge because of the attractive force. Likewise, the work done to bring the charge to point P will now be reduced, thereby reducing the potential. You can compare these two cases. Here you have only opposing force. Here you have opposing force due to plate 1 and attractive force due to this negative charge on plate 2. Therefore, here the work is reduced, thereby reducing the potential. Hence, the capacitance is increased by presence of this earthed conductor close to the conductor 1. Now, the symbol used for capacitors is fixed capacitor represented by parallel plates and variable capacitor represented by an arrow drawn on the parallel lines. Let's now obtain expression for capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor, the simplest and most widely used form of the capacitor. For the purpose, let's consider two plates, each of area A. A is area of each plates. D is separation between the plates. If we give charge plus Q to this, it induces a charge minus Q on the inner plate, as in this case, and the positive charge is made to flow to earth. A here denotes area of each plate, D the separation between the plates, and sigma the surface charge density. Charge over area plus sigma for first plate and equal minus sigma for the second plate. Now we can see, analyze the field. Outside the plates, field is 0. Why? Because if you take a point to the right, this plate will develop a field towards left. The positive plate develops an equal field towards right. Therefore, the field at points outside the plates will always be 0, being equal and opposite due to the two plates. However, the field between the plates here is directed towards right, away from positive charge towards negative charge. Both the fields are towards right between the plates. Hence, we have E is equal to sigma over epsilon naught, the field between the plates of the parallel plate capacitor. Now, sigma is charge per unit area. So, you can write it as Q over A epsilon naught. The potential difference between the plates is given by V equal to field intensity multiplied by the separation, that is Q over epsilon naught A into D. From this relation, we can get Q over V, that is the capacitance, Q over V equal to epsilon naught A by D. So C depends on area and it also depends on separation between the plates and electrical permittivity of the medium between the plates. You can see a graph between C and area will be a straight line because C is directly proportional to area. A graph between C and D, the separation between the plates, will be hyperbolic because C is inversely related to the distance. Now, in short, let's see what will happen if we combine the capacitors. There are two types of combinations of capacitors. They can be joined in series or they can be joined in parallel. The capacitors joined in series are shown here. We have two capacitors connected end to end. Such a combination is called a series combination. Now, in series combination, if we give charge Q to one of the plates, say here plate 1 of capacitor C1, it induces a charge minus Q on the second plate, plus Q on the first plate of C2 and minus Q on the second plate. This minus Q as usual flows to earth. Further, let's suppose that V1 is potential difference across C1, V2 across C2 and V is the total potential difference. From the diagram it's clear that V is divided into two parts, V1 and V2. So likewise you can write V equal to V1 plus V2. The potential difference V can be written as Q over CS. CS is capacitance of the combination of the two capacitors, equal to Q over C1 plus Q over C2. Dividing by Q, you get this relation for effective capacitance CS of a series combination. 1 over CS equal to 1 over C1 plus 1 over C2, or CS is equal to C1 C2 over C1 plus C2. So the capacitance decreases if you connect two capacitors in series. This can be extended for 3 or 4 or 5 or a number of capacitors in series. We'll get 1 over CS equal to 1 over C1 plus 1 over C2 plus 1 over C3 and so on. If, however, the capacitors are connected in parallel, that is, one plate of each of the capacitors is joined to a common point and the other set of plates joined to another common point, so that we have same potential difference V across each of the plates or across the combination. In such a case, if we give charge Q at A, it will be divided as Q1 on capacitor C1, Q2 on capacitor C2, and so on. So you can write Q is equal to Q1 plus Q2 for a pair of capacitors. Q is CPV because CP here is the effective capacitance of the combination. CPV is equal to C1V. Remember, potential is same for each of the capacitors, plus C2V. Dividing by the common factor V here, you get Cp is equal to C1 plus C2. Clearly, Cp is larger than C1 and also larger than C2. Hence, a parallel combination increases the capacitance. A capacitor can store charge and energy in it. In order to get the energy stored in a parallel plate capacitor, let's consider a capacitor here consisting of the two plates shown here. Charging a capacitor requires transfer of charge from one plate to the other. That is, say this to this. The work done in the process is stored in the capacitor as energy. Suppose the capacitance of the capacitor is C and it is to be given a charge capital Q so that its potential rises from 0 to V. Now this has to be done in small steps. Let Q be some value between 0 charge to capital Q charge and V dash the corresponding potential between 0 to V. Then we have V dash is equal to Q by C. Now if you want to transfer an additional charge dQ dash at this stage, work done to transfer that charge will be given by dW is equal to dQ dash V dash. Substituting for V dash, you get 1 over C Q dash dQ dash. So work done to increase the charge from 0 to Q is W equal to integral of dW or 1 over C Q dash dQ dash. Q dash dQ dash limits 0 to capital Q. The integral is Q dash square by 2 into 1 by C. So substituting the limits, you get Q square by 2C. This work is stored in the capacitor as energy. Therefore, capital U is equal to W equal to Q square over 2C. Using expression Q equal to CV, you get half CV square or half QV. Now, another important term is energy density. That is energy per unit volume. We denote it by small u. Total energy over volume of the capacitor, that is half CV square over volume area into separation between the plates. Substituting for C, epsilon naught A by D and V as ED, we get half epsilon naught E square as the energy density. Remember, the energy is not on the plates. The seat of energy in the capacitor is in the field between the plates of the capacitor.